pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Jeff Reinahan, 1st Ward.
Bill Carlos, 2nd Ward.
Ann Berger, 3rd Ward.
Michael Safone, 4th Ward.
Stefan Krakauer, 5th Ward.
Ann Schurshin, 6th Ward.
Felicia Salvatore, Town Clerk.
Jim Nelson, attorney for the town.
And Jessica Morin, Deputy Town Clerk.
John Basie, Town Supervisor. Welcome everybody to tonight's meeting. We have a normal sized agenda tonight. The first item on the agenda will be a public hearing for 195 Vassar Road, an unsafe building. Number 2 will be a presentation by Duchess County Transportation Council relating to the Route 94455 study. 3 is accept the resignation of Matthew Winkler in the Police Department. 4, authorize a contract with the county in relation to the Police Department's Tyler system. 5 is a contract with the county Stop DWI program. 6 is appoint Teresa Valone, part-time school crossing guard. 7, accept the police donation from Carol De Benedetto and Jason McGlynn and Christina Muller. 8, appoint Francisco Cicero, groundskeeper with the Recreation Department. 9, appoint Michael D. Alessandro, water maintenance mechanic. 10, resolution for Mental Health Awareness Month, May 2022. 11, authorize legal documents relating to South Hills Commons. 12, authorize legal document relating to Vassar College faculty housing. 13, authorize the supervisor to sign a T-Mobile hometown grant agreement for Stanley Still Park improvements. 14, to waive the 30-day liquor license for Regal Cinemas. 15, authorize the Comptroller Emberger to make adjustments, transfers, amendments to the 2021 operating budget. 16, the notice of claim for an illegal Andre Nigel Barnett. With that, I'd like to make a motion to open public hearing number 1.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody here to discuss public hearing number 1, 195 Vassar Road?
Yes, I'm here. Kenneth Walters.
Mr. Walters, would you like the building inspector to give his presentation first, and then you can comment when he's done?
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Wayne?
Good evening. We got it. Wayne C. Sean, Deputy Building Inspector for the town of Poughkeepsie. Okay. Here we go. For the address. It's a older two-family, or two-story, one-family home built between 49 and 50. 8 rooms, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, full unfinished basement. Has a screened-in breezeway area and an attached garage. This is what it was in its day. We're going back about 25 years here, assessing records, what you're seeing right now. So we responded to a complaint, meaning the building department, back in 2011. Found the place vacant, open. Records indicate that we issued orders on the property back then. It was certainly unsafe at that time, and so it was posted. So that's what we found in the condition when we first walked on it in 11. Go back one. That's what the order looks like back before they were modified to what they are today. So unsafe building report was brought before the town board back in 2012, and an order was produced out of that to secure the structure, remove garbage and debris, mow the grass, and drain the in-ground pool. So the owner's contractor came and pulled a demo permit. He took care of some of the windows by boarding them up. He did take down the car patio portico that was off the end of the garage. They definitely cleaned up some of the debris in the yard, and the in-ground pool was filled in. But the interior of the building didn't change at that point. We didn't take any further action because there was some compliance. So we'd rather get the compliance working than, be punitive and try to do something other. So in 14, what went on at that point, another complaint came in about the property. Another inspector went to the site, found that there was work going on that required building permits, put a stop work order up. Knew that he saw that it was also unsafe and reposted as a danger. So the owner's contract came in at the end of 14, September, pulled a renovation permit to fix the foundation. The work was not completed or inspected. The permit expired in 16. We checked into another complaint in 19. The complaint was that the floor had caved into the basement. No care or maintenance, broken windows, trees, and the electric was still on, and no one was living there. When we went to there, we found that it was true that the interior doors are not secure, broken windows, tree on the roof, grass not mowed. We authorized or had Central Hudson terminate the electric because, I mean, it involved electric on the inside when the floor fell. So in 19, that's what it looked like in January. As you can see, that lower right is where the floor started its collapse to the interior. So this is what the newer orders look like, meaning a condemned order. Some of the rules have changed for the state codes, and this is the information that had to be on that document. That's a chimney you're seeing there. That would be for the main boiler, opposite of the front of the building, that has a fireplace chimney. So we checked into the property again and found that it was unsecured, and it's literally starting to fall apart. The doors are open, the front door and the side door are open, so it is accessible. So the floor has fallen in a little bit more, what you're seeing in that photo. We've got, the roof is failing at a very heavy rate. I mean, we haven't seen that much degradation in a short period, but it's the ceilings are falling in. The wood is falling in, it's rotting. So that gives you a better shot of what the floor looks like that's collapsed into the basement. This is right, I'm at the front of the front door right there. Wouldn't dare step into the building. Support posts being removed, they're gone. So we issued new orders because of the care or lack thereof. They did pull a renovation pit. The contractor came in again and pulled a renovation permit to board up on the windows, doors, and breezeway, to get the tree off the roof or repair the roof if it was needed, with a note that he'd pick up garbage too as well. Most of the tree was removed off of the building. There's still some stuff on it, and it's literally breaking apart though. No inspections were on that permit, were done, and it's void. The permit is voided because of that. So we received another complaint in 21 that the building was unsafe. As you can see, some of the items that they complained. We checked it, the interior doors are not secure, floors falling in, full of rubbish. Exterior walls are separating from around the chimney. Roofs are rotting, missing supports, animal nests. Nothing was being done. So the site required updated orders again in 21, so we did that. And we issued orders to remedy for the violations, condemned order, notice to opportunity to be heard, which is something that's required by the court system, and a cease and desist order for occupancy or use. We responded to a complaint again in January. No compliance. Went out, checked it. It's accurate that there was no compliance with the orders. Most of the tree had been removed, and we give the credit where it's due. but the building's still unsafe and in a very bad way. So this is what it looked like this January. And now what you're seeing, if you look at that chimney, that little dark stripe looking area to the right side of that chimney is the wall opening. The walls are starting to rotate inward. It's falling in and away from the chimney. We can't tell what's going on the left side of the chimney. You just can't see it without getting up there. But that gives you an idea. This is the little front porch roof that has the supports missing. This is doing its own rotation, and it's falling back in toward the building. We took shots again today just to see if there was any other improvement, but so we have current orders to remedy violations on the property that will expire April 1st. There's a time limit for orders to remedy. Even though the violation can remain in place and has no end time for it, when you produce an order to remedy, you have to act on it within 1 year, or you have to reissue. So that's where we are with the April. It'll be a reissue. So unless we do something that's different, but the plan is that, you know, after April 1st, we would go back out to the property, see what's been done, and then cite again from there. So we have no electric, no gas. It's a private septic system well. The driveway's blocked, so there is no fire department access to go down that driveway. Right now they would use the neighbor's driveway that's right next door to it. Taxes are current. So it's vacant. Not properly secured, doors and windows, attractive nuisance.
And when is the last time that it appears that anything was done to the property to secure it, to maintain it, to fix?
Well, the efforts that we've had shown so far was taking out a permit. And then a little something, you know, something will get done.
When was that?
The last time was the tree. I'd have to go back into the slides to give you the date. But it was,
what
you know,
year?
it was about,
2019.
it was either 19 or 21.
Okay.
That was last year.
And that's Mr. Kenneth
Yes.
Walters on the phone?
Yes,
is the
correct,
owner?
yes.
All right. So, I mean, that picture from '97 looks like it was a nice house. I've never seen a floor drop away other than the police court building. Not completely, just starts to move. And then I think over at maybe Hudson Heritage, there might be some of those where they've gotten to that point. But it takes a lot to actually get something to that point. I've seen stuff that's bad. This, I think it's a shame. It does appear to be very dangerous. The fact that the part of the house is pulling away from the rest of the house, floors have dropped out. We've had discussions before as a board about being reluctant to go in and do something in that, you know, taking down somebody else's building or doing something along those lines. I mean, I guess I'm interested to hear what Mr. Walters has to say, but that appears to be extremely dangerous. And the problem is that when it's open like that, and the attractive nuisance thing comes to mind where kids or other people could get into that and be hurt extremely badly. Someone, I don't know if you said they emptied the pool or filled in the pool.
Folded in.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like there was a point where there was an effort made, but for whatever reason, that doesn't seem to really have been followed through on, and it's just gotten so bad that I don't know if it all really needs to be torn down, but it seems like the bulk of it is a complete disaster at this point, and it is an unsafe building. I mean, that, I think if you look in a dictionary, that probably is right there. So,
Wayne, when they had a chance to have an opportunity to be heard, you were never notified?
No.
Nobody ever called back?
No, and it states right on the notice to be heard, you know, that you've got a certain time frame. They would have to have made contact with the legal department to make that arrangement. We never got anything back.
Let's see. So, Mr. Walters, now, if you have anything to say, now's your time to speak.
Yes, I'm going to try to comply with your orders here. I'm going to do as much as I can. I'm going to get my contractor back again. Put up more plywood. I mean, I had all the openings closed before, and then people went and made new ones. Broke the windows, broke the doors. So I'll have those closed up again. And I'll have the rest of the tree taken off the roof.
Mr. Walters, where do you live?
I'm living with my girlfriend in Wappingers.
Okay. Why is it that this house has gotten to this point?
Vandalism.
No.
I mean, it was...
Well, here's the thing, though. If somebody breaks the window in my house, I fix it. Because
Yes.
it's the only... Because what happens is, if I don't fix that window, somebody will come back and break the next window, and the window after that. But
Yes,
no matter
that's what
how many
happens.
rocks
I mean-
people throw at my house, it wouldn't cause my floor to collapse or the side of the house to pull apart. So it's got to be more than vandalism, correct?
Oh, and that was also Superstar Sandy came and flooded out the basement, too.
All right, the basement. So the basement got wet, but had the
Yeah.
floors above it drop down into the basement.
Right.
But minus a tree falling on the roof, the rest of the building was not maintained since early 2000. I mean, so why has it taken so long? Why have you done nothing with the property? You could have rented it out when it was still in good shape.
I have. I mean, I spent over $30,000 trying to do these repairs
When?
over the years, from like 2010, 11. I mean, I took out the pool, I took down the shed, I boarded up the windows, I boarded up the doors.
But that's not repairing. What exactly did Superstorm Sandy do? And I mean, I don't remember it hitting our area super hard.
Yeah, I mean, this problem, my house, I'm down this hill.
The Jersey Shore, you might have an argument, but Town of Poughkeepsie, I think you might be
There was
blaming.
lots of rain. My basement got flooded.
Right, but that wouldn't create what we're seeing there. Back in '97, that was a nice house, and it's a shame.
Yeah, it was.
It's a shame.
And
that
this is over time.
right, but I guess so.
What are your intentions moving forward with this property?
Oh, eventually I want to sell it and move south.
Mr. Walters, the question I have is, you made a
Wappingers?
comment that you're gonna, take the tree down, you're gonna fix a few things. What Wayne is showing us pictures of here is separation of your house and, different things like that. The floors are collapsing. The fact that you wanna board up the windows and take the tree off the roof, that's like the least of the worries. I mean, the actual structure of the building seems to be more of the problem. I don't think it's take a tree off and throw a coat of paint thing. I think it definitely needs an engineer to come in to see what can be saved and what can't, because looking at this long distance picture that's on the screen now, you can see the hole right in the side of the house and where the floor is collapsed and, the way the roof is bowing, besides what's in the basement. I think it needs a lot more than a few little fixes and boarding up and doing it. Because the main reason that I got the phone call on this, which is why we sent the building inspectors back, that is you have a neighbor less than 50 feet away who can no longer get homeowner's insurance because of the condition of the house that's right on the other side of her street. So do something to fix that house. We're going to have to see a lot more effort to bring it up to code compliance, not just boarding the house up, boarding the windows, and taking a tree off the roof. You need to get an engineer come in here within this time frame of 30 days and let us know what's physically going to get to be done. Otherwise, we're going to have to take further action. And this has been going on for many years. It's just come to my attention in the last couple of months, but this definitely has to be addressed, because with kids and vandalism, whether they break it or not, we don't want to see somebody get extremely hurt, inside of that building if they did go in there with no floor or anything, or kids in there at night going down there. It's close to the creek. They come up from the creek. You don't know what's going on. We definitely need more than what you're offering up today as far as just taking a tree off and cutting the grass and cleaning it up. You made, I think, more progress years ago when you filled the pool in and took down, the overhang and things like that. But we need to see some major structural improvements, and I think you need to see an engineer first to see if this house is salvageable. From what I see, I am not an engineer, and I'm not saying that needs to be done, but I think we definitely need to see you to step up to the plate if you want to save this house, to really get some competent construction companies and engineers in here to see what can be done and if it can be saved.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, it's a really strong housing market right now, and you've got a lovely lot. That is really a beautiful location, a lovely lot. Would you consider just selling it and cutting your losses and let somebody else take over?
Well, that's originally what I wanted to do, but first I want to find out where I'm going to move to.
Aren't you in Wappingers?
Yeah,
you're not living in that. You're not living in that house, correct?
No.
Yeah, but I want to go south.
No, but you're not living in that house, correct?
No, I'm not.
So you want to find somewhere you're going to move to. You're not living in that house, so that does right. But the when's the last time you've been in that house?
Sorry?
When's the last time you've been in that house?
I left like 2010, 2011.
You haven't been in that house for...
Well, I mean, I've been in, but I haven't been in for a few years now. I've been sick. I've had a lot of medical problems. I just haven't been able to go down there.
So what... I get... You're not doing anything to fix the situation. It might be that you're just not able to, which I guess I understand. Well, but I guess the thing that I don't understand is why would you... It probably should be torn down because it looks like it's extremely dangerous. Do you have an issue if that's what the town does?
Yes, I mean, I'd rather see if I could fix it up and get more money for it.
There's no way.
Like I say, it's a great housing market.
Well, you'd probably be better off trying to sell that quickly.
From just looking at it realistically, like like living in the real world here, that's not something that you're gonna. Honestly, with that house not there, you probably get more money for the vacant lot than that house there, because it doesn't appear like it's something that can be fixed. It appears to be a tear down. Someone's got to rebuild it. So I don't for the life of me understand why we're here, and it's horrible that it's to this point, but I don't think it's a great idea for any of us to wait all that much longer, because I gotta imagine to fix that house, if you were to keep it, would cost way more than to tear it down and rebuild. But to fix that house is probably north of $100,000, would be my guess. So north of that. So that, based on that, the lot without the house might be around that value, maybe, I don't know. So I guess it doesn't make sense to me for us to spend too much more time allowing you to do something that isn't going to happen. It hasn't happened. At 97 it looked nice. 2022 it looked horrible. You said you haven't been in there for 10 or 12 years. At this point, this is ridiculous. It's sort of a waste of our time to continue to discuss it. We should just keep moving forward. If for some reason you pull a $100,000 rabbit out of a hat and secure that place in the next 30 days, great. Otherwise, it should probably come down, some if not all of it. and we shouldn't spend a lot more time figuring that out, because it seems like the building department has a long track record of dealing with this property, and the last time anything really productive was done was 10 or 15 years ago. So we might be doing you a favor by tearing the thing down.
I have more time.
See,
For the summer.
See, I have to agree with what Stefan was saying too. Is I've seen a lot of unsafe structures before, and I think this far exceeds an unsafe structure. This is like imminent danger. I mean, I'm glad that you placard the building, and hopefully the fire department is aware of this structure as well, right? Hopefully they added it on their notes if they ever have to respond there. I think we gave, or the building department of town gave you plenty of time. I think this really constitutes where it gets demolished. I don't think it's really a point where they should give any more time. It's an eyesore, unfortunately, for the neighbors, and it's just, like I said, plainly unsafe. That's all. For anybody, like I said, that might respond there, or even if kids get in there, it's just totally unsafe.
Without a doubt, I second that, Jeff Renahan.
Mr. Walters, do you have anything else to say?
Yes, can you just give me 90 days, see if I can come up with the money?
You'd be just putting good money after bad, sir. I think you really should contact a real estate broker and try to sell that property.
I agree with that, but the resolution gives them, 30 days. So you get a chance of 30 days, and after 30 days, you got 60 days to comply. If it doesn't make it, then we will be taking our next action. Mr. Nelson.
Pardon me. The only thing I wanted to mention is that the 30 days in the resolution, I believe, runs from when Wayne gave the notice. And that notice was posted on the 2nd of March.
Correct.
So if you're going to be marking time from now, you probably want to be, and at 30 days to start. From
The 30 days, the 30 days based on what's in this resolution, not adding more time.
No,
And here's the thing, Mr. Walters, I don't think anybody here is trying to be mean about this. It just is what it is. It's something that should have been taken care of a long time ago. The idea, if I thought giving you 90 days would change anything, I'd be all for it. But 90 days won't change anything here. You've had since 1997 to maintain the house. And honestly, it's a shame, because the first picture that Wayne put up there, I looked at that and thought, wow, that's a really nice house. It's got a lot of character. It's an older style house. Now looking at it, if I were you, it would probably bring a tear to my eye, because if that's where you lived and spent a significant amount of time, that's not what it should look like. But none of us are trying to be mean or heavy-handed. It's just, there's no reason to give you 90 days at this point. That ship has sailed.
Yeah, especially when the notice stated it. So we shouldn't have to extend anything. It stated 30 days from that order notice, and it was posted that it has to start. So I don't think we should add anything more than what that notice says.
No, we shouldn't be.
Yeah.
It is what the notice says.
Yep.
This is what the resolution says, is what it is. I mean, this is not a property that's something happened in the last 6 months, 9 months. This is a property that's been a problem for 10, 12, 15 years already, and it needs to be taken care of. And if you can't do it in this time frame that's on this resolution, we'll take our next step of action, which will be to tear it down. Anybody?
Is there anybody else that wants to speak?
Anybody in the audience that would like to speak? If not, a motion to close public hearing?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Renahan.
Whereas by resolution 216-2 of 2022, adopted on February 16, 2022, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie has determined that the premises and the buildings located at 195 Vassar Road, Poughkeepsie, County of Duchess, State of New York, bearing grid number 6159-01-469860, the owner of the record being Kenneth Walters, are dangerous, unsafe, and dilapidated, and an imminent threat to the general public. And whereas the Town Board has adopted the Building Department's unsafe building investigation report regarding the premises and directed the issuance of an order and notice requiring the demolition or repair of the premises and a setting of a public hearing regarding the order and notice, and whereas said order and notice of public hearing has been served and posted, which order included a direction that the required work began immediately, and must commence not later than 30 days from the service of the order and notice, and be completed no later than 60 days thereafter, and gave further notice that on failure to timely comply, the town board is authorized to repair or demolish and remove the building, or to seek an injunction to compel the owner to do so, and assess the expense thereof against the premise as a special ad valorem levy tax under Town Law Article 15, and to institute a proceeding to collect the expenses of such work. And whereas the town of Poughkeepsie has, in order and notice, reserved its right to proceed more rapidly with the remediation of this site if it is required pursuant to Town Code 71-12, whereas the legal notice of a public hearing was posted February 17, 2022, and published in the Poughkeepsie Journal on March 9, 2022, and whereas said public hearing has been held this day, now therefore be resolved that in the event that the owner has not timely commenced or completed the repairs or demolition, the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie authorizes and directs the building department to demolish and remove the building by town employees or by the responsible contractor, making the lowest price proposal to the town consistent with Town Code 71-10, and therefore assess against the premise and levy and collect the expenses of same as provided in Article 15 of the town law for the levy and collection of a special ad valorem key levy, and be it further resolved that this work is an enforcement proceeding and is therefore a type 2 action which is exempt from the environmental review under 6 NYCRR 617.5, subsection C, subsection 29. So moved.
Second. Got a motion second. Any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. That brings us to the end of our public hearings. I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules for any item on the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Does anybody like to
Before
speak
you
to?
proceed, Mr. Supervisor, do I understand that the building department is authorized to do whatever solicitations and procurements it needs to
Correct.
to move this ahead?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Is there
Doreen,
anybody-
I see your hand raised.
Anybody like to speak, and we ask you to please keep it to 3 minutes? Doreen?
Hey, thank you, Jay. So I have a comment about number 11, legal documents relating to South Hills Common. So basically the town has ordinance in the code that says that work is not supposed to be done on a site until the planning board chairman has signed the approved site plan. And oftentimes we see people coming in to ask for approval to go ahead before the site plan is signed. And oftentimes it's because of the fact that they want to cut down trees, and there's only a certain time of the year that you're supposed to be cutting them down in order to protect the habitat of the Indiana bats. And that's what it is in this case. So basically, they're not supposed to cut trees between April 1st and October 1st. So this says that tree felling may occur prior to March 31st. Well, today's the 23rd. So is someone from the town, and if so, who would that be, going to inspect to make sure that any of this cutting that's done is only done until March 31st and that they don't go over that date?
Absolutely. Mr. Welter, do you want to answer that further, or?
Yeah, I just want to say yes, and in fact, the engineering department was there today to make sure that the limits of disturbance were properly marked out, and so that they're ready to begin that process once the execution of the documents is finalized.
And will they then inspect to make sure that on March 31st that okay they're done and they're not going to cut after that everything is finished?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And actually, just one more thing on that. I keep reminding the town that you are a climate smart community, and one of the goals there is for preservation of natural resources, and at least is alarming to me about the number of trees that are cut down in the town, and I think there needs to be more consideration of protection, tree protection, And that's something that the planning board needs to see to also. So, thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Doreen. Is there anybody else? No, please.
I do not see anyone.
Make a motion to resume the rules. All in favor?
Aye.
The next item on the agenda is a presentation by the Dutchess County Transportation Council relating to the Poughkeepsie 94455 study. Good evening, Mark and Mark.
Good evening. So we do have a PowerPoint presentation, but I'll kick us off with some prepared comments.
Mark, just let us know who you both represent, so the audience knows.
So my name is Mark DeBald, and I'm with the Dutchess County Transportation Council, otherwise known as the DCTC, and that is located or embedded within the Dutchess County Planning Department. So I'd like to first thank the town board for providing us some time on tonight's agenda. We're excited to present our findings and recommendations from the Poughkeepsie 94455 study, specifically as they relate to the arterials. But first, I do want to quickly provide some background about the DCTC and explain where we fit into this process. Again, we are a very small division within the County Planning Department. We have 3 staff, including myself, and our basic responsibility is to program federal transportation funds through a locally driven planning process. We manage federal funds across the planning study areas and also on capital projects. We've had this basic mission since 1982, which was our founding. We were originally called the Poughkeepsie Dutchess County Transportation Council for some of us old-timers who may remember the PDCTC. Before we dive into the 94455 study, I did want to highlight some related planning work that we are doing for the town. Some of you may recall that we did complete an Arlington pedestrian plan back in 2017, which looked at improving pedestrian connections and walkability in the Arlington neighborhood and Arlington Business Improvement District. And more recently, in 2021, we completed a more detailed conceptual street redesign for County Route 114, otherwise known as Main Street, between Grand Avenue and Taft Avenue. And we're actually working with the County Public Works to implement some of those pieces of that conceptual redesign. So hopefully we'll have more to report back to the town board when we have some more definition on that process. And I also did want to mention that we are in the very early stages of starting a sidewalk feasibility study for Spackenkill Road, otherwise known as Route 113, between the middle school and the high school. And again, this is very early stages, but that is something that we are going to try to look at during this year. And then specifically on the 94455 study, this has been one of our more ambitious planning efforts in recent memory, which speaks to the complexity of the Route 9 interchange and the 4455 arterials. It's the primary reason that we split this study into 2 phases. The first phase looking at design concepts or options for the interchange. This is by the Mid-Hudson Bridge. And then the second phase looking at the design options for the westbound and eastbound arterials. I am joined by Mark Sargent from Creighton Manning, who was our project consultant on this study. And before I hand it over to him, I do want to mention a few overarching themes to keep in mind as we walk through these recommendations. Foremost, we wanted to produce a viable path forward to improve the arterials, one vetted through a detailed traffic simulation analysis and a comprehensive public outreach process. Knowing that making recommendations is not as simple as drawing lines on a map, and that we needed to be deliberate and measured in our approach. We also wanted to quantify how the arterials operate now under existing conditions and how they might operate under future conditions, such as introducing 2-way traffic on both stretches of the arterials. Learning more about where we have or will have constraints or bottlenecks, and ultimately using this analysis to help us determine what's possible or not. And lastly, we did take a balanced approach in developing these solutions, knowing that people experience and interact with the arterials in different ways, which made us look at how we can balance the trade-offs across the various forms of travel and making sure that the benefits and burdens are smoothed out as much as possible. I guess we can all appreciate the arterials are not built overnight, so the range of solutions will take time, funding, and wherewithal. These are not insurmountable challenges, but still important considerations as we move forward. And we view the conclusion of this study as the beginning of an ongoing conversation with the town, city, county, and state, and more importantly, with the people who rely on or interact with the arterials on a daily basis. It's our hope that the results of this study will help inform the ongoing conversation and be used to leverage future funding to make these recommendations reality. And before I hand it over to Mark, I would like to thank him and his Creighton Manning team for all the work they did on this study. The few PowerPoint slides that we show probably don't do justice to the amount of hours and time and effort that were put into this study. And with that, I will pass it on to Mark.
And Mark, just before you start, just to let everybody know,
Sure.
the town board, myself, Mike Welty, were on this committee along with the city. The Bridge Authority was on it. The DOT was involved. So it wasn't just a study between the Transportation Council and Creighton Manning. There was a team of probably close to 20 that met multiple times on this, and they also had presentations locally in different locations. The pandemic made it a little difficult, but in the beginning, they did have open meetings to get the voice from the public.
Great, thank you.
Great introduction, thank you, John. My name is Mark Sargent. I'm a professional engineer and project manager with Creighton Manning. We'll get underway here. So the advisory committee that Supervisor Baisley was talking about established this study purpose at the outset of the study, and that is the purpose of the study was to identify feasible design concepts for the interchange, the Route 9, 44, 55 interchange, and the arterials, based on an informed and public process that maximizes the safety, livability, and connectivity of those facilities while delivering acceptable traffic operations. And this is an abbreviated statement of the study purpose, but you get the idea of the trade-offs and everything that needs to be considered as part of a study like this. There was also a lot of history going into this in previous studies that set goals for the arterial, such as tame the arterials or turn them into walkable boulevards. And previous studies hadn't done the technical work to determine whether it was feasible or not. And this study did that work, following up on previous strategies. So we are at the tail end of this study, having worked through it in the two phases that Mark DeBald just spoke about, the interchange roughly for the first half, and then the arterials after the data gathering. Graphically, this is what the study area looks like, with the interchange area highlighted in the purple lightish blue color, and then the arterials extending through the city and out into Arlington. This study actually started 2.5 years ago, prior to the pandemic. And what this chart shows is the majority of the study was done during the pandemic, and it reflects traffic volumes on the Mid-Hudson Bridge and how they've changed over time. So in late 2019 or beginning of 2020, we were still at normal levels with no change. And at the beginning of the pandemic, traffic dropped immediately it was cut in half, and then it recovered. And to this day, the last data point we have is late last year. Traffic volumes had returned to about within 5% of pre-COVID conditions. So fortunately, we had access to our traffic data before the pandemic, so that was accounted for. And then we also had some technology using what's called street light data, which allowed us to look at travel patterns in the area pre-pandemic as well. As the supervisor indicated, significant public outreach, including 10 advisory committee meetings, stakeholder meetings, meetings with New York State DOT, summarized here all on one slide, but extensive public outreach throughout this 2.5-year study. The first phase of the study lasted about 1 year, and it's all summarized on one slide. So it involved taking a hard look at the interchange. It's plagued by a high accident rate and congestion daily. We did surveys, and a good percentage of people said they avoid the area. They don't want to drive through it. They don't feel comfortable. So we developed 13 initial concepts that were screened down to the 4 you see here. Some of the ones that screened out were traditional interchange designs, like a diamond interchange, for example, or one that's called a direct connection, or one that would have placed a roundabout on Route 9, on 44, 55, above Route 9. and a number of others. One that involved a flyover with a roundabout in the middle. So there was a screening process done, and a number of those were determined not to be feasible. Either they did not adequately accommodate the traffic, or they required a footprint that was too big, meaning they would impact the adjacent historic neighborhood or the existing Mid-Hudson Bridge, and you can't tie in some of these new ramps easily to the existing bridge. So the goal here was to come up with something that could fit within the footprint of the existing interchange. And these four concepts did that, so they were taken to the next level. Detailed traffic simulation models were developed, a lot of trade-offs analysis, and what emerged from this was this idea of what is called roundabouts on Route 9 is a pretty good alternative. It's shown graphically on the right as to what it might look like. It maintains the ramps on the inside of the two northbound and southbound lanes. And a lot would need to be done to progress this to a design stage. But at the end of this planning study, it appears that a concept like this is feasible. It will move traffic better. It will improve on the safety issues that are happening there. And I can see you have a question, and I'm happy to... Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's literally one of the worst sections of road that I've ever driven on in my lifetime, other than maybe down around JFK Airport. There's no other part, like that's the only other place where I can think of that I just don't ever want to drive.
Exactly.
So it's sort of low-hanging fruit, but that looks like that's a roundabout right in the center of Route 9.
It is.
So that you're going to take traffic coming through there, putting through a roundabout.
Only off-ramp traffic, just like only people to get off of Route 9. So it's after you exit Route 9, then you would pass through a roundabout, similar to Kingston, and then you would move up onto the arterials, or depending on down. It's not on the high-speed section.
So Route 9 through traffic would stay through.
Okay, yeah, because I've seen in Europe where they put a roundabout into like a major, I think in Holland they do it.
Right.
And that's terrible. Because
Understood. Okay. So the second phase of the study was to take a hard look at the arterials, and you all live here, you're very familiar with these characteristics. They carry a lot of traffic, approximately 40,000 cars a day. The majority of the facilities are 3 lanes wide. This section of Columbia Drive. Columbus, excuse me. It's a long day. Is 4 lanes wide. It's loud. You walk along these facilities, it's uncomfortable. So something should be done. Like I said, previous studies had calmed the arterials, tamed them, turned them into walkable boulevards. So two concepts really were evaluated in detail. One was to take away a lane like you see on the left and provide 2 lanes on each direction. Do something else with that remaining space. Parking, bike lane, bus stops, more street trees, some combination of those things, bump outs at intersections. That could all be incorporated into the option on the left, which is called the 3-to-2 concept. And then the other concept that was evaluated was to turn both arterials into 2-way streets. And detailed traffic simulation models were developed along with some of the other evaluation criteria you see here on the left. And what emerged from this trade-offs and technical analysis is that the 3-to-2 concept appears to be preferred. The 2-way concept did not do a good job of addressing the traffic needs of the arterials. It met some of the other criteria, but altogether the 3-to-2 concept had these advantages: improved safety, reduced speed, still provided reasonable travel times for through traffic, allows those curbside options which I spoke about, trees, parking, bike lanes, something like that, improved walking comfort, and is constructible at a reasonable cost. And the disadvantages are that it still maintains the one-way nature of the arterials, which is less friendly, so to speak, than a 2-way street, which you can drive more directly. One ways you need to go out of your way, so that's called less freedom of movement. And with more stop-and-go traffic, because we're taking away capacity under this concept, there would be increased emissions from vehicles. So that is a very real disadvantage. But the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, and here's what that 3-to-2 concept would look like here in Arlington. Conceptually, you could see at this zoomed out level that there would be an opportunity to provide some additional street trees in the more residential areas, and the possibility of incorporating some on-street parking in the more commercial district area. And we've got a couple of zoomed in versions here. So on the eastbound arterial approaching Raymond Avenue, you can see the transition from the more tree-lined section with a bike lane to on-street parking as you pass through the Raymond intersection. Conceptually, the details of where on-street parking is provided versus other curbside amenities would be worked out in design. But this was the extent of our discussions at the committee level. And then westbound from Taft to Raymond is where the road would transition from 3 to 2 lanes and then continue west into the city. The fundamental, well, one of the significant criteria to be addressed here is to provide reasonable traffic operations along with all the other factors. And so what this chart shows is a theoretical capacity illustration, and along the bottom is time of day. The dark blue line in the middle is hourly variations of traffic over the course of a day. So the peaks are the morning peak hour and the afternoon peak hour when people travel to and from work. And the existing arterials, being 6 lanes wide, have a capacity above the needs of the arterials. But by taking away a lane under the 3 to 2 concept, you can see this gold line drops just below the dark blue line. And so what that means is the facilities under the 3 to 2 concept would operate at or over capacity during the peak time. Not the way we designed facilities years ago, but it is something now in this new complete streets era where we're thinking about all users and other needs and not just the motorist. There could be benefits to doing something like this because it's easier for pedestrians to cross the street. It could improve safety and some of the other factors we talked about. So just because it doesn't move cars through the city and town as quickly doesn't mean it's not feasible, but it's close because it's borderline. We wish there was more buffer here, but it's, as you can appreciate, it's a busy section of road. So those are really what drove the ultimate conclusions here. So what we would expect if the 3 to 2 concept is implemented is that there would very likely be some traffic diversions to other streets, and those are shown in orange here. There would be some congestion during the peak hour, just like we all drive on our commutes during the peak hour. You have some intersections where you wait a little longer than you like. So the intersections shown in red here would experience longer delay. Level of service F is the criteria. It just means you wait roughly a minute at each one of these intersections versus what people experience today. So that's the negative effect of the 3 to 2 concept. But traffic is dynamic. It moves around. Networks have resiliency. Traffic on a congested route can move to a different route. You can choose to travel at a different time of day. So this is one scenario, very much like a weather model. You know, we know the hurricane's going to hit, but we don't know exactly when and where, and that path gets more fine-tuned
Do you really want to
as it gets closer in time.
the road to a hurricane?
I'm just saying, in terms of weather forecast,
one's a natural disaster, one's a man-made disaster.
there's a little uncertainty. And so, because this is very close to where it would be considered not feasible, but there are benefits to considering it further, the committee is comfortable taking it a little further. And that is through what we're calling a pilot project. So a pilot project is a real-world test of the 3 to 2 concept. We don't want to rule it out now based on a theoretical traffic model that says it's too close to call. But if you do a real-world test for a longer period of time, like 6 months approximately, not a pop-up event for one day to showcase something, but a real-world test where you can study it for a period of time. Does it reduce crashes? Do people change their behavior? Do an extensive public involvement process during that pilot to see what the feedback is. Are people happy with the change? Did it reduce crashes? What happened to traffic volumes on alternate routes? Did they increase? Study the effects of the 3 to 2 concept. And so that ultimately is the recommendation here. And Mark has said that this is a win by itself because this is a New York State DOT facility. And the willingness to go along with a test here is a significant win for this study because it's not an easy lift, so to speak. And so therefore what we've talked about at the committee level is doing this in a way of what possibly a building block approach. Rather than taking a lane and testing the 3 to 2 concept in both directions for 6 months, we may test it as part of a project with independent utility. And what I mean by that is if there's an intersection, and we have an example here, Clinton Avenue, for example, where there could be a spot improvement at the intersection. While that permanent or long-term improvement is happening at the intersection, take a lane on the arterial that summer and do the long-term project, test the lane reduction in the process for a few blocks, 2 or 3 blocks, see how it works. And that could be a very good indication of how it would work if you carried it for the rest of the arterials for the long term. So that, when I say building block approach, that could be the one way to test it. So a couple of the other projects that have independent utility that aren't, not all of these lend themselves to a pilot project, but they could be done with or without the 3 to 2 concept. One is leading pedestrian intervals. If you haven't heard of that, it's just giving pedestrians the walk indication before vehicles get the concurrent green light. Right now, most signals are timed where pedestrians get a walk indication, the traffic moving in the same direction gets a green light concurrently. And so they're competing for space with turning traffic. An LPI gets the pedestrian at roughly 5 seconds of time to get a head start into the road, claim the space, then the green light goes on for vehicles. Good safety improvement for pedestrians. Another project with independent utility is the possibility, this concept here shown at Clinton Avenue, to remove some auxiliary lanes. Another one is the idea of converting two-way Market Street, which already has momentum and was studied previously and is being pursued for funding. Another one is extending a turn lane at Jefferson Street. And a fifth one is reducing Columbus Drive from 4 lanes to 3, which is a standalone concept. Right now there's a lot of weaving going in there. People traveling toward the bridge tend to be in the rightmost lane, and it doesn't operate all that well, and there's a lot of crashes in this area with all the weaving. So reconfiguring this to 3 lanes would improve operations, well, crossings for pedestrians at Main Street, would reduce weaving, it would improve safety. It's a good standalone opportunity. So we're halfway through these next steps. The website has the final products on it. There's a very good executive summary on there. The website is called poughkeepsie94455.com. It's very easy to find. We've had a couple of meetings. We're happy to take your questions. We have one more advisory committee meeting. We'll be giving all the files of data to Duchess County, and we've appreciated working with Mark and his team the last several years in the advisory committee. And then, as Mark said, the real big next step here is to continue the discussions with the municipalities and the county and the state about this pilot project and funding some of these improvements. Thank you. Questions?
I have questions. The website, do you know how many hits you get on that website? Or how many?
At one point we had roughly 400 unique individuals that had provided comments, between 400 and 500.
So with the public outreach, I mean, I'm involved, I pay attention. I've never seen any of this stuff or heard any of it, so.
Oh, well, I attended before the pandemic.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
so
they had one downtown, yeah.
Right, you did, but that, I'm just telling from my point of view. So, great. So the public outreach, I think it has to be broader, to get more people, to get input from more people. Poughkeepsie Journal, I don't read it, honestly.
Stefan, I was in the Journal, and no offense, you live on the southern end. I would never know either.
Right.
One of the public outreaches was the farmer's market. Davies Hardware, one of the wine stores. There was another one in the town, too.
Well, I'm just saying that the public outreach has got to be broader, because you're probably not hitting a lot of people, because the website, if it's only had about 400 unique. But, so, in any event, I guess
just for the record, we did issue a few press releases through the county exec's office. So we try to get as much exposure as we could, and social media posts and all that. Yeah.
All right.
First Friday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually advertised it from here also. It was on our website also.
But
All right.
we agreed.
I'm not
forward,
asking you. I'm just saying. I'm saying if you want public outreach, it's got to. I think it just has to be broader to hit a broader group of people. Lowering traffic capacity. Why would you do that?
That's exactly it. Because the transportation is not all about moving cars. It's about facilities for all users. There are over half of the people that live adjacent to and along the arterials do not own or have access to a car. They need to cross the street daily. They need safe crossings. The arterials have crash rates that are approximately 2 times the statewide average. Taking away a lane could improve safety and reduce crashes. And so moving quickly through an area is no longer the primary objective of a transportation engineer. It's one consideration, but there are other factors to make them safer, to consider all users, people that want to ride a bike or other.
I would counter with it.
Transit.
That sometimes it's not just capacity, other times it is. I mean, the New York State Thruway, I would say that's capacity. It's not pedestrian access. So depending on what the street is, what the road is, and the function, capacity may be the reason why it's there. Pedestrian safety might be another issue, but different streets have different purposes.
I don't disagree with you.
So the east-west arterial, I think when it was put in, was probably put in for capacity, correct?
Right,
Probably.
and I think that's why I said we consider this a win to test this idea, because the Department of Transportation and a lot of people have that point of view, and it's a very good perspective, because there is a very real capacity need here, and we're not ignoring that. And that was the subject of a lot of committee meetings, like, is this worth doing? Because we need to move all these cars.
The state DOT project that just comes to mind is Raymond Avenue, which I thought was a good idea, but there was a whole bunch of pushback from just a small number of people on 1 or 2 streets where there was going to be some, they believed, new traffic because of changing the capacity of Raymond Avenue. You have a lot of streets, a lot of properties where your premise is, we're going to help you. Part of me thinks you're going to get the opposite reaction from a lot of those people, that you're not helping me. You're taking those cars that were going past my house, and now you're putting them on my street, and they're coming down my street, and it becomes worse, not better, because now when I cross my street here, I got to worry about the cars, whereas I only had to worry about crossing the arterial, which I don't do so much.
It's possible.
So I have a lot of concerns about the 3 to 2. I actually liked that turning lane that you had in the middle, because it seemed like you make them 2 ways. You have the ability to have cars in the middle, so they're not clogging up one way or the other. When you reduce it to when you reduce the capacity, I think it's problematic. Here's what I'd love to see: that you fix the just glaring problem that should have been fixed years ago. That I gotta imagine is just a horrendous amount of accidents. It's that Route 9 piece that's ridiculous. It's always been ridiculous. When DOT came to the town about the roundabouts in Raymond Avenue, I asked them why they didn't fix that, and they said that's not the project we're working on, because I felt like that was a better way to spend taxpayer money to fix the problem that is a complete disaster. Makes no sense. I'm not a traffic engineer or anything, but I could come up with probably a dozen different ways where that could be better than it is. and they're probably not even close to how good of, nowhere near what you could come up with. So I think it would be really nice to see this project phased, fix the major problem, that Route 9 corridor, which is just a complete disaster and counterintuitive. If you're not from here, I think it's really dangerous because you don't understand how bad it is coming through there. If you're from here and you try to navigate it, whether you're coming on or off that road, it's so dangerous all the time. People coming at you and coming into your lane, people accelerating not to let you in because they're probably from around here and just annoyed coming through that section of road. That is one of the most dangerous sections of road I've ever seen. I don't know what the fatality rates or the accident rates are, but that I'd love to see fixed before any more money is spent on anything else. The other, I guess, the other piece of that is that I'm looking at the pictures, and I'm trying to find out where it is. But the way you have, I think concept A is what the choice is, right? Right now? Yeah. So is it the northbound lane is all the way to the right, you're driving and you turn off and come onto the roundabout, or you drive through the roundabout coming through?
So if you're passing through and you're not moving from Route 9, you want to stay on Route 9, you just pass through on the right.
So, okay, so if I'm going to do anything other than go through,
You exit on the left just like you do today.
What is it right now? 3 lanes?
It's a left side exit today.
But it's 2 lanes that goes through there?
Yeah.
It's 2 that go through.
All right, so if I'm driving on Route 9, there's 2 lanes that will go straight through there. If I decide I want to go to the bridge or City of Poughkeepsie or wherever, then I'd come off of Route 9 and go into the roundabout.
Right.
Okay. So, all right. So I'm not coming through the roundabout.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. However you reconfigure it, it couldn't get any worse. It's got to get better. And I would say that that should be done right away because that's always been dangerous. The other part, I like where you had all those little pieces, the fixes, the changing the traffic lights so that the pedestrian had a little bit of a head start before the car tried to accelerate at him. Those things I think are things that probably should be done sooner rather than later also, because those would probably save some lives, make things safer, make life a little bit more palatable for people. The 3 to 2, just, I think that road, a big part of that road is capacity.
It is.
I think it makes sense. And I think, I mean, one of the things, I don't know if you studied it or are going to study it, but I think one of the things that you should look at is the people that actually drive that road, why are they on it? And if it's to get from point A to point B, then changing the capacity will impact a lot of the actual people that use the road negatively.
Right. It's not clear cut. And you're right. There's a need for a lot of capacity out here. And one of the things we've talked about is there might be a hybrid solution out here, so to speak, where you could lose a lane or go from 3 to 2 for a section of the arterials, calm a certain section, but it looks like it'll be more challenging to do that in the city. But on the east end, it looks like it's a less pain, so to speak, that their traffic would still move a little more freely on the east end under the 2-lane scenario. It's the west end where it's more of a challenge. And so I agree, the committee's totally aware of it.
Well, that makes me more
comfortable talked about
because we're doing this or that
and
is problematic. But I do think, like I said, I think there's always room for improvement.
Stefan, sitting in here when we met, one of the group members in there was a DOT from day one, and everybody can agree. All the DOT wanted to do is, we got point A, point B, car A, car B has to get there. The discussion wasn't what went in between there, it was to get them over there. And the other group said, coming out of the city, you don't realize that in today's day and age, coming from the bridge up on the right side, you got Amazon, FedEx, UPS, garbage trucks. That becomes a safety hazard and another effect, which is one of the reasons they're trying to address the cutoffs in the different spots. All those different little intricate items were all things that were brought up for safety on different manners. You said to go from 3 to 2, how many times you go down that street, whether it's a school bus, a garbage truck, picking up all those little intricate things, having from the bridge crew to the DOT, having all their input. Everybody had what you said, were all different little pieces. So that's why when we came to this conclusion, it's basically very generic because there is no set, like just add a lane or take out a lane. It doesn't work. He said the city has a ton of people that walk, as opposed up in our area, a lot of it coming into the town is just businesses with sidewalks already. So it is a little bit different, but to slow them down, there are some changes that can be made, but I still think the trial part is something we have to try to see. Because everybody always says, plan for the future, cutting back isn't always the answer, but does the whole transportation change? We live in an area where you have to drive to get to 90% of places. You know, it's not an easy place to jump on a bus and take off and change your habits. It's just not an easy way of life up here like that.
If I might, I happened to be working here when we went from Main Street to the east-west bound arterials. From when that happened, late 70s, to now, the flow rate on both arterials has gone up consistently. And you have a plan to reduce it by 1/3 in each direction?
Exactly.
In my humble opinion, that flies in the face of common sense. If we have that kind of flow rate, why in God's earth would you reduce it by the lanes? Okay? The problem doesn't appear to be out here, coming in 44, 55 and going through the town and into the city. The problem, I agree with Councilman Krakauer, is at the 9 interchange. I don't remember. The difference was significant when it was all on Main Street, because it wasn't just Main Street that was carrying the traffic. It was everything coming out of the city or going into the city. So I understand that. What I'm having a hard time understanding is reducing the current flow rate by 1/3. There's no way that makes any sense.
The only thing I would add to that is that it doesn't make any sense, or it is challenging for those peak hours. There are 22 or 1 hours of the day where it would be a much better drive. It would be a better facility for those other uses for the remainder of the day. So there might be a little pain, so to speak, during rush hour. But the city and the residents would enjoy a different facility, lower speeds, calm traffic, fewer crashes for the rest of the day.
You're assuming calm traffic, and you're assuming less crashes.
And speaking of pain,
One other thing. So we're going to have more traffic at the traffic hours. What about all the ambulances coming in from the county?
Yep.
Where's the traffic going if there's only 2 lanes? Onto the sidewalks? This needs some real more thought going into what you're talking about before you even test it by reducing it 1/3. I would oppose anything that had a negative impact to the current flow rate. Do we need enforcement for speed? Yes. I personally given out more tickets than I could count on that arterial highway in both directions. Okay? Stewie Bowles, when he was the chief in Poughkeepsie, he had a one-man selective enforcement unit, was Mr. Wolf. So I have a lot of time and a lot of experience on those roads. I saw the difference. I can see the difference on Route 9. I don't think you'd be talking about reducing Route 9 by 1/3.
No.
Why here, why now, when the problem is in the city at the interchange? Thank you for your comments. I appreciate it. I've made myself perfectly clear, I think.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I just want 2 more cents from me. I like the beautification. I think it's great. Trees are great. Landscaping is great. The one thing I don't like is when that happened on Route 9, it's a nightmare for the town of Poughkeepsie to maintain landscaping on a state road. It costs us a small fortune to do it. We couldn't do it in-house. We got to contract it out. So whatever beautification were to occur, I would be 1,000% opposed to the entire project, no matter how great it was, if the state asked us to maintain landscaping on a state road again, because that's a horrible idea. The state should redo that landscaping on Route 9, clean it up, and then maintain it themselves, and that would be another nice step forward. But I'm guessing that that's not going to happen right now, and that's not you guys.
Yeah.
But
We're
yeah,
actually currently working on that right now. We're actually currently working with them on that right now.
Okay, but that was a terrible idea when it was done. Not the landscaping, just the idea that the town maintains landscaping on a state road. It just doesn't make any sense at all.
Doesn't make it easy.
Also, I'd like to put out the opinion of the Arlington area here, where they have the business improvement. We've often discussed 4455 and how it slices between that and Main Street. It slices up the business district. Nobody likes to cross those streets. So actually, I'd be in favor of it going down to 2 lanes and calmer. And also, calmer traffic, slower traffic is better for the businesses, because then people notice what's around them and where places they can go. Whereas if they're going at 45 miles an hour, they're just zipping by and they don't see anything. So yeah, we are actually quite in favor of whatever can be done to reduce those two. And we'd often talk, we actually like changing back to 2-way streets. We had actually been very much in favor of that. But 2 lanes, and also too, those people who live along there, it's miserable getting out on that street.
Thank you.
So.
Yeah, I would just add, the premise going into this study was trying to balance the burdens and benefits, and no one had really, up until now, we had not tested, what is possible on these arterials, and we've got a lot of different perspectives. Certainly, the city of Poughkeepsie has different perspectives than, say, the town of Poughkeepsie, but we are trying to meet in the middle a little bit, and there are. One of the takeaways from this model is that we know that we're on the margins of going down from 3 to 2 lanes on the capacity issue, and it's not a slam dunk. It's not as simple. It does require some careful consideration moving forward. Big picture too. These are New York State DOT facilities, and ultimately NISDOT is going to have the say as to what could possibly happen. These are just planning studies. These are not projects. They could be very expensive projects. We do have some cost estimates in the draft reports, which are on the project website. So we are going to have to, New York State, the county maybe, would have to write applications, say, to the Federal Highway Administration to secure additional funding, because a lot of these projects go above and beyond what the state has in their normal allocations of highway funding. So, we're starting this conversation. In fact, the conclusion of this study is the beginning of this ongoing conversation. But the data does inform us. And just to add, when we say 3 to 2, one of the big assumptions, or one of the big requirements of this study, was that we are not going to move the curbs. So when we say we're dropping, down 3 to 2, we're not extending the curbs and doing a physical, a physical narrowing of the road, say, to 2 lanes. There's that extra space in that 3rd lane, which could be on-street parking, it could be transit stops, it could be freight, local delivery, loading areas. It could be maybe greenery, but it would not really be a kind of a hard scape. And so there would, I think, be options for, say, emergency vehicles to get by traffic. But again, these are planning concepts.
Yeah, I just like to say I appreciate all the effort you put in, and I am by no means an engineer of any sorts, and so I can't even imagine what goes into something like this. But I understand that it is multifaceted, that you're taking into account that part of the area is more residential, a little bit more business district, and then you get into the city where everybody lives there. So, I'm not opposed to going down to that 2 lanes either, and then making it a little safer for pedestrians, less accidents. I drive on the arterial every day, and I can see what happens there. And if we're talking about losing a minute or 2 of our day in traffic during those peak hours, or maybe even a whole 5 minutes, it doesn't sound so bad. Right. But I appreciate the work, and I appreciate seeing what happens, looking forward to what happens next.
And I would add that, in our conversations with New York State DOT, probably, in my opinion, I think they would see the interchange, the Route 9 interchange by the bridge, as maybe the higher priority. But these are part of the ongoing conversations we're going to have with the state. And ultimately, the goal of studies like this is to leverage federal funds, especially with this new Infrastructure Act. There are a lot of new programs in there that kind of speak specifically to this type of work. And so getting this kind of study done maybe builds a case for future funding.
So the Route 9 issue, if this is it part of the project, period, or is it potentially a project unto itself? Because here's my I think that project should just shouldn't wait for the rest of it to be figured out, just because it's so long overdue that I'd love to see that get done, just independent of the rest of it, because of the fact that it's a clear need, and I think there'd be a consensus there. And if there's money there today, if we're doing a study on the arterial and can't really come up with the best fix overall, I'd be concerned that Route 9 project spends another 10 or 15 or 20 years as it is if it doesn't happen now. So, and I do appreciate all that you guys do. So I don't want to come across as negative. I like change. I like to look at things and have new ideas come forward. I just want to make sure they all make sense. That one piece, though, of Route 9 should have happened a long time ago. So that's why I would hope that piece could maybe be pushed forward.
Yeah, and they are separate
independently.
Yes. So they are kind of they are related, but they are kind of on separate paths. So one should not hold up the other if, by chance or blessings that we received the funding to get something done.
Anything else? No, gentlemen, thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to move number 15 to next. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Emberger.
Good evening. It was on the last year's audit report that we should do more presentations to the board, keep them updated financially what we're doing. So it's with that recommendation. I wanted to come up tonight and just go over last year's results. Basically, the year's closed. The auditors will begin in a couple weeks, start the new audit. So results from 2021 have been very positive. All the funds, again, had a surplus, adding to our fund balance. A fund was up over 800,000. The B fund, 1.1 million. Highway was up almost 600,000. Water was up about 200,000, and sewer about 200,000. A big reason for A fund and B fund was sales tax and the mortgage tax. We've been taking a conservative approach on the revenues, and both those revenues well over our budgeted amounts, which helped the revenue. Our expenses in 2021 were higher in the A and B funds, basically because 20 was the COVID year, so it was slower. So the expenses were up higher, but again, mortgage tax was over budget by 600,000, and sales tax were over about 700,000 over our budgeted amounts. So that helped increase the fund balances. That was it. I just wanted to give a quick report. I'll probably be coming up quarterly, give you reports on what's going on. It's difficult in the first quarter because we have all the taxes in, so everything's skewed. But I'm keeping an eye on electricity and obviously gas, the way things have been exploding price-wise. So we'll have to keep an eye on that.
What are the interfund adjustments, transfers, and amendments?
Okay.
Anything more than a couple bucks here or there?
Well, yeah, and it's a lot this year. I think I started too early. I started in January. Basically, for the audit, I got to make sure there's no negative accounts. So if I can move the account, like, in my office, if I can move the money around and have everything covered, I can do that as a controller. But when I'm taking money out of, like, let's say the salary line or the benefit line and moving it into expenses, I'm changing the budget. So that's what has to come to the board. Mm-hmm. So what happened I guess in January, I started cleaning things up. But we didn't close 2021 until the end of February. So there might be duplicate, I corrected this in January. I had to do it again in February. But normally every year we do this. It's, yeah, and it's.
Can you
Overall, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can you send, I guess, at least the finance committee a list of the
It's on the website.
okay? It's not in the packet. Then.
No, it wasn't in the packet.
It wasn't in the packet, but it is on the updated
Okay.
website.
I can send you an Excel
Okay.
spreadsheet.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
thanks.
Yeah. You'll see there was a lot of salary adjustments because we had it was actually 27 pay periods this year because it ended December 31st, right on the button. So there was some salary adjustments. You'll see a lot of salary adjustments. And like I said, it was all self-contained. It wasn't like I was hitting fund balance. All these accounts, well, we had a surplus. So it was just really shuffling the funds around.
Just put them where they belong to balance things out.
Yeah.
Mr. Controller, if I might, with these very positive balances, we seem to be very healthy. Does any talk about a tax cut?
Well, in this year's budget, I did hit fund balance on most of the accounts, trying to keep we save below 1%. I was using fund balance to do that. We've been under the 2% cap since I've been here the last 5-6 years. By increasing the fund balance, we just got an upgrade from Moody's last year, credit-wise, which was a big step. We've been trying for the last 2 or 3 years, and we need fund balance, and we're at that point, and we've been steadily increasing that. We're about 20%. Usually the controller wants about 12 to 15%. Right now we're about 20. So yes, we can use fund balance when we're doing the budget, and to help offset the taxes.
We sound like you and the supervisor are doing a tremendous job with managing this. But if we're this healthy, this stuff, how about we do a tax cut and give some of it back to the people who pay the bills?
Bill, what you have to watch, and I'll answer this for Charlie, what you have to watch for is like with the mortgage tax. Mortgage tax, 8 or 9 years ago when I sat in this board, we had a budget for close to $1 million. The mortgage market died off. We had to reverse and go back the other way. We've kept a very conservative approach. The extra that we collected in the mortgage tax this year was, I think, almost 3 months. The last 3 months we were over. We have to be careful. The housing market, with the interest rates going up, it's a very tough nut for the comptroller to make that kind of statement that we would be very skeptical at this point, because the same with the mortgage tax, we're guaranteed a certain number from the county. Then there's an escalator number that's dependent on how much the sales tax increases every year, and that's based on our population. So if all of a sudden the economy tanks a little bit, or they just took the clothing allowance off, if that affects it, we're very healthy. The number has gone up every year, but it's a number that sometimes it hangs out there. So you got to be very skeptical if the market goes in reverse, which we want to keep a very conservative number. But as we said, last year we got us down to almost a 0. We're under a 1, and we're hoping that if things keep going in this direction and the mortgage tax and the sales tax numbers go, it's quite possible to come out with a very close to 0. I would never come out in March and say we could lower your taxes, but we're doing the best we can. We've stayed under, and consistently we seem to be staying at the same rate or going down a little bit because we're under 1% this year.
If we got our fair share of the sales tax based on the amount of revenue that's generated from the town of Poughkeepsie, we could lower our taxes and give a refund to taxpayers, but we don't get that. So.
No, and then the other note, the county does not have to give any town any money. The 2 cities have to, by law, either sign an agreement or charge their own sales tax, and the county goes and agrees with the 2, and they've been fair with it. To get the escalator has definitely benefited the town. Our escalator number has been very high over a few years. The first year we started was $100 and some thousand was the year they put the sales tax on fuel oil, which they took off the next year, and we thought it would go down, and the next year double to $300. And it's consistently going up a little bit, and last year it went up a lot because we are getting sales tax on internet sales also.
But the distribution based on what we produce isn't fair compared to what the cities are getting. We're subsidizing other towns and cities, basically.
Towns not as much, because the towns are, I think if you talk to the other towns, they seem to be pretty much in line. They will agree with 100%. The cities, and they just signed a new agreement, are getting either their fair share or more than their fair share. We have more than one city. And we've had a long discussion that I'd say one city is getting their fair share, and the other city is definitely getting more than their fair share.
Is there a ratio between the level of the sales tax that they have income from here? Do we get a percentage of that, or is it just whatever they decide to give us?
The county gives us a percentage of their sales tax revenue, and then it's divided up amongst the municipalities. Then the escalator is divided up amongst the municipalities by population on how much the sales tax increases every year.
Well, I was thinking of from the other way, Jay. For sales tax generation for the county, I would venture to say with the car dealerships and the plazas and the malls, the majority of the sales tax income comes from the town of Poughkeepsie. So therefore, I would think the majority back to the town of Poughkeepsie first.
Yeah, Bill, there's a half answer to that. As far as the towns go, if we didn't have the two cities in the equation, we probably are getting our fair share. But with the two cities in the equation who have to sign a deal with them, they are definitely getting the better end of the deal than we are.
So the cities are getting...
Yes, and the cities by law...
Poughkeepsie and Beacon.
Yes, they can charge their own sales tax by law. They sign an agreement with the county, so they don't charge their own sales tax. And I think it's every 10 years the county has to sign a new agreement with them. They just signed a new one 2 weeks ago.
You have to have businesses to charge a sales tax, so that's the
And
reality.
believe it or not, you know, people may be under the impression that the malls are your revenue generators.
Car dealerships.
The
Malls
car
aren't.
dealerships.
Right, car dealerships and a lot of other places, and we do have one of the biggest generators in the county, believe it or not, is IBM, because all the mainframes they sell are actually built out of Poughkeepsie. So we are one of the biggest, if not the biggest, generator of sales tax due to the high ticket item volume of what it is.
We also provide all the services, infrastructure, police for all that occurs. And the reality is, while the county can levy its own sales tax, we are represented by county legislators, and so are the towns. So there's, I mean...
And the other note that people don't always see and understand, you know, we always look at the mall being a generator and a car dealership being a generator. Our population is the generator. Besides being have 40,000 plus residents, we have 3 colleges that live here. We have a police department that maintains their safety. They are also heavy generators of that sales tax revenue. You know, you can have all the car dealerships and all the malls you want, but if you don't have people to purchase, you're not going to make any money. And it's our people and our residents are the ones that are also out purchasing this throughout the county, because we are, you know, 40-some thousand people out of 300, and I think it's 25 for the county. So we are the biggest populated. On top of that, not only size-wise, we are the biggest. Sorry, Charlie.
No,
Sorry, Charlie.
Forgot you over there.
That's fine. So, and also with the pandemic, like New York State retirement jumped up 5-6% because they weren't making their projections. So that's why we got to be careful. There's a balance. Obviously, even health insurance. MVP went up 4%, NISHIP went up 11%. It's, you know, it's a balancing act, and you got to be prepared. Especially, honestly, the retirement for police officers is 30%. So it's a big nut. So
it's 30% increase or 30%?
30% of the salary.
Okay.
At the end of the year, yeah. And well, the non-police, I don't be fair, it jumped from 16 to 18%.
So when a police officer retires, we end up paying 30% of their salary annually?
No, we pay.
Stops when they retire. It's until they retire.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
while they're working, we're paying 30% of their salary into the retirement.
Correct.
When they retire, we don't have.
Right.
It's just the health insurance that we're.
Correct. Yes. Okay. Just bring up to date.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Charlie.
Brings us to
ready?
Item 3.
Resolution number 3.
No, 15.
No, 15.
Got to read 15 first.
Oh,
Gotta read 15?
Sorry, Bill.
because that's
That was
what
me.
you just did.
Read 15.
I got it right here.
Jeff's copy.
14. That's 14.
That's 15. That's 14.
Okay. Number 15.
No.
Bill, you want Jeff?
You give me too many pieces of paper. Resolution number 15. Whereas the town of Poughkeepsie has established the office of Comptroller, which officer is invested with the powers and duties to provide for the town in law, Section 32, and elsewhere. And whereas the town controller is responsible for the orderly recording of all finances associated with the fiscal operations of the town, and whereas in order to close the financial records for the year ending December 31st, 2021, certain budget adjustments, transfers, and amendments may be required. And whereas this board wishes to provide the town controller with the authorizations to perform all necessary intra-fund balance adjustments, transfers, and amendments in order to produce a balanced budget for the year of 2021, now therefore be it resolved that the town controller is hereby authorized to make all necessary intra-fund adjustments, transfers, and amendments to the 2021 operating budget revenue and expenditure accounts required to produce a balanced budget by April 1st, 2022, provided that the town controller shall deliver a report detailing all such adjustments, transfers, and amendments to the supervisor as attached. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Emberger. Number 2.
Resolution number 3. Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does accept with regret the resignation of Matthew Winkler, police traffic maintenance technician with the town of Poughkeepsie Police Department, effective March 25th, 2022. So moved. All those, oh yeah, sorry.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions on that
Who
one?
seconded that?
Mike? Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Good luck, Matt Winkler, on your future endeavors.
Number 4 is withdrawn.
Be resolved, the town board, town of Poughkeepsie, is hereby authorizes the supervisor to sign the 2022 Stop DWI Program Amendment and Extension Agreement with the County of Duchess, a copy of which is attached. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be it resolved, the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby appoint Teresa Vallone to the position of part-time school crossing guard with the police department at a salary of $12.90 per hour effective March 20th, 2022, which appointment is subject to a probationary period of not less than 8 nor more than 26 weeks per civil service law. And be it further resolved that the town supervisor is authorized to execute and file all documentation required by the Dutchess County Department of Human Resources in connection with this appointment. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions?
What's minimum wage now?
I don't know, but that's pathetic.
What is minimum wage?
Sorry.
15?
No.
No, it's not.
It's like 13.25.
Standing on the edge
So-
of the road for $12.90.
So $12.90 is less than minimum wage?
That's ridiculous.
I take it that's what's in the contract now, but could it be?
Is that part of the police contract?
No, no,
No?
no.
This is just-
We do not have to pay minimum wage because we go by federal minimum wage, and that position gets paid, if I'm correct, 4 hours a day.
Oh, all right.
And they're not there for 4 hours a day, really.
Oh, so it's 2 and 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we did increase it up quite a bit. I think this is the last minimum wage. It just didn't hit an increase when the last one changed.
Okay, and the town pays for all the school crossing guards, no matter what school district
Correct.
and where they are.
Yes.
So the school, are the schools entitled to a crossing guard by default and we provide it, or they request it?
It's, I
Have
think
to
if there's a
justify it?
crosswalk put in by the town, we have to provide a school crossing guard.
Okay. And what
Correct.
school is this person going to be at?
This Chief Road School.
Chief Road?
She's actually a school employee. Yeah, she works in the cafeteria for lunch, so she'll go to work. And
Okay.
Work again.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So this one actually works out pretty good. It was actually a pretty good fit for down there.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be resolved, the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby accept with appreciation a donation of $50 from Carol DeBento And be further resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby accept with appreciation a donation of $20 from Jason McFlynn and Christine Mueller, and be further resolved that donations were made to our police department in appreciation of his responsiveness and will be used to offset police department needs. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. I'd like to thank the three individuals for your donation. Be resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby appoint Francisco Cicero to the position of full-time groundskeeper of the Recreation Department at grade 5, step 1, salary of $20.85 per hour, effective April 10, 2022, which appointment is subject to a probationary period of not less than nor more than 26 weeks per civil service law. And be it further resolved, the town supervisor is authorized to execute and file all documentation required by Dutchess County Department of Human Resources in connection with this appointment. So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions?
Yeah, so,
What do they do? I said, what do they do if we have a mowing contract, a groundskeeper? I was just curious.
so,
Can I answer that?
so,
Maintenance.
right, so this person, the intent is to have this person work doing the groundskeeping, mining field, doing like the maintenance for the rec department in the spring, summer, and fall, and then the winter would be reallocated to another department, not staying in rec, because one of the things years ago when we redid how we like run the town, we outsourced the maintenance of the field. So a groundskeeper in of itself would be problematic in the winter because there's no grounds to keep.
He's most likely going to be moved over to either water or highway
Okay.
to help out wherever
Okay.
the needs are.
All right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
See he's online there too, it looks like. So welcome aboard.
Thank you, Frank. Good luck. See you in April.
Be resolved, the Town Board, Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby appoint Michael D'Alessandro to the position of water maintenance mechanic with the Water Department at the salary of $21.50 per hour, effective March 28, 2022, which appointment is subject to probationary period of not less than 8 nor more than 26 weeks per civil service law. And be it further resolved that the town supervisor is authorized to execute and file all documentation required by the Dutchess County Department of Human Resources in connection with this appointment. So moved.
Second.
We got a motion second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Resolution number 10. Whereas mental health is an essential to the well-being and the vitality of our families, businesses, and communities, and whereas mental health conditions are real and prevalent in our nation, with 1 out of 4 Americans and 1 out of 5 children affected by mental illness, and whereas more people die from suicide in the United States than from traffic accidents, and an estimated 22 veterans die from suicide each day, and whereas stigma and fear of discrimination keep many who would benefit from mental health services from seeking health, and whereas education, compassion, and awareness about mental illness can change negative attitudes and behaviors towards people with mental illness, and whereas each business, school, government agency, law enforcement agency, healthcare provider, organization, and citizens share the responsibility to promote mental wellness and to support prevention efforts. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Town of Poughkeepsie, the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie, on behalf of the Town of Poughkeepsie, does hereby proclaim month of May 2022 as Mental Health Awareness Month. And be it further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie also calls upon all Town of Poughkeepsie residents, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools to recommit our community to increasing awareness, understanding of mental illness, reducing stigma and discrimination, and promoting appropriate and accessible services for all individuals. And be it further resolved that the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI, Mid-Hudson, is hereby authorized by the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie to tie ribbons on the walking path along Wilbur Boulevard in the Town of Poughkeepsie and at the Town of Poughkeepsie Town Hall. So moved.
Just
Second.
And before we vote on that, it should also be Main Street. They're gonna be putting ribbons on Main Street also. I'd like to make a motion for that change.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And on the resolution, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Whereas South Hills Common has received conditional site plan approval for the construction of 4 multifamily 2-story buildings containing 6 units each, for a total of 24 units on September 27th, 2021, and seeks further planning board approval to fell trees on the project site on and before March 31st, 2022, which tree felling permit requires the execution of a secured undertaking and the posting of collateral security therefore, and whereas the town board has received a bonding estimate from the town engineer. Now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor and the director of municipal development are authorized to receive and execute the annex secured undertaking for restoration in substantially the form annexed and the collateral security required thereunder on behalf of the town of Poughkeepsie. So moved.
Second.
A motion second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be resolved, the town board, town of Poughkeepsie is hereby accept the stormwater management facility inspection and maintenance easement regarding the project known as Vassar Faculty Housing. And be it further resolved, the town board, town of Poughkeepsie is hereby authorize the supervisor to sign a stormwater management facility inspection and maintenance agreement, sidewalk maintenance agreement, land bank parking agreement, grant of water meter pit easement, site distance clearing easement and maintenance agreement, and any supporting reporting documents in regard to the Vassar facility faculty housing project in substantially the form attached. And be it further resolved that such acceptance and authorization by the town board of town of Poughkeepsie is subject to the final approval of all final documents by the town attorney, planning board attorney, town engineer, and the director of municipal development for the town of Poughkeepsie. So moved.
Second.
A motion second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Whereas T-Mobile USA Inc. has accepted the Town of Poughkeepsie Recreation Department's application for a T-Mobile hometown grant in the amount of $34,450 to be used for softball field modifications and improvements at Stanley Still Park. Now therefore be it resolved, the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the supervisor to execute and return with the thanks of the town the attached agreement with T-Mobile USA Inc. in substantially the form as presented. So moved.
Second.
There a motion second. Any questions on this one?
Is this improvements, or is it really kind of fixing a lot of things that went that happened to the park over the past few years?
No,
with
it's
weather?
actually improvements. They're turning one of the fields down there and adding another field.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the one field that the senior league uses, they're turning that field because they felt a lot of balls are going to where the playground was. So they're turning that field so they'll be hitting it in the opposite direction.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Be it resolved, the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby acknowledge receipt of a request on behalf of Regal Cinemas, Inc., 2011 South Road, Poughkeepsie, New York, for a waiver of a 30-day review period for a liquor license application, and be further resolved, the town board of the town of Poughkeepsie does hereby approve the town clerk's forwarding of a waiver and consent pursuant to the attached request. So moved.
Pretty sure that's 2001 South Road,
It is.
just a typo. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, I just have one question. I'm not sure if anyone can answer this. I think I mentioned it to Jay before, the supervisor. In regards to this liquor license, does anybody know what their intent is in regards to,
I would
like,
imagine to serve
but I mean,
beer.
in a restricted area, are they allowed to, like, purchase it, like where you purchase your popcorn and soda and bring it into the movie theater?
That's what I'm guessing.
And I'm just curious, I'm just curious about the concern of somebody bringing it into a movie theater, say a 21-year-old with a 20-year-old friend, and who's going to supervise that they're not passing that drink off to somebody else in a
That would be
dark
a question
movie
for
theater?
the cinema. I have no idea.
So
I'm just curious.
here's where that leads my question, because the waiver of 30-day review period, we get these all the time, and the 30-day review period,
They're just
what
notifying. They're by
but what
law
it sounds
notifying.
what it sounds like is they got to notify us, and then we have 30 days to review it and decide whether we have an issue with it. So, like in this case, it might not be a good idea. It might not be a bad idea to not waive the 30-day review period, because the councilman has a question as to how that's going to actually happen. So maybe we should have 30 days to review it. And I would hope that if they give us 30 days to review it, then we're able to comment or put our input, give our input to
You
it.
would have to call, I have no
I mean,
idea.
these things are always waived as a matter of course. It just seems like there's a process. This one definitely seems like maybe we need 30 days to just take a look and see what exactly they're trying to do.
All the people that you need to contact would be on the backup paperwork.
We have a
so-
number of issues at the movie theaters as it is. Certainly don't need to handle more.
I think they're just trying to compete with, there's a lot of movie theaters now that are like with the comfortable chairs and the bed. I mean, you're not getting people going to the movies anymore with all the streaming. They're looking for ways to make money. That's just.
I definitely get it, but I do have concerns about putting more people up there, especially even younger people that are old enough to drink aren't necessarily.
But at the
best
ticket
people
prices,
have
you're
up
not getting
there.
a lot of younger people that even go to the movies anymore.
Yeah.
Just not.
I just think
You pay
we need more-
$15 for Netflix, you never go to the movies again.
I would say the 30-day review period seems to make sense.
I mean,
right
that
here.
makes sense, but I'm just
For
saying,
that or-
from their
well-
standpoint, they're losing money. So
We have a
they're just trying
meeting
to
in
find
2
a way
weeks,
that people-
and I don't think there's anything wrong with calling the liquor authority to find out what their credentials are, because I told you all earlier today, I've watched their meetings, I've watched their theory behind how they actually approve these, so I assume there is some answers, but I don't want to give answers that I don't know are true, so
Right.
I will myself reach out to the owner, and I'll also reach out to the liquor authority, because this is a new law that was passed by the state recently.
That you
And I
can-
think Stefan or somebody mentioned earlier that the one that they did go into, they actually had to wear a wristband, so you couldn't be under 21 to be in there, so there are different ways to do it, to see
I mean,
what
I think
changes
they're
they're
going to be
making.
allowing alcohol to go in restaurants too real soon.
Yeah, so I mean, I
On the
think,
state level, so it's just something that they're trying to do to.
yeah, I have no problem with
During the restaurants.
not voting on this
No,
and
to
taking
go.
it off until we get more answers.
You can take to go
Oh.
alcohol.
All right.
I'll make some calls.
So
Jim?
Mr. Supervisor, you want to take it?
Well, I think we should,
Take it out of the
table,
agenda?
table this
Well,
temporarily. yeah.
We could just deny it,
You need a
and then there's a
ma-
30-day
you need a
review
motion to
period.
table?
Which, I have a question for Jim, I don't know if you know this or not, but what is what's the point of 30-day review period? When there's a liquor license application in the town of Poughkeepsie, do we have an opportunity to provide input and say that location has been problematic and that business has been problematic, or the use of liquor with that, the use of that property is something that we have an issue? The owner of the property has had other properties in town where there are problems. What is it like? Do we have any input? Like if the town of Poughkeepsie said we're going to take 30 days to review this, and at the end of 30 days we said this is a terrible idea, does it just get approved anyway, or?
No, when you have a hearing up there, not Jim's end, they actually look to see if they've gotten any responses, and I know the police department, with issues they have called on issues, and they are responsive.
Okay. So at the end of this 30-day period, presumably the applicant has a hearing in front of the liquor authority to get the final approval?
I got to find out exactly, as you said, Jim. I don't think
That's what I'm
you know the
saying.
answer.
It sounds
Whether
like we
they
have an
a
opportunity
hearing
to give
or not, I
input.
don't
That
know,
might not be
but
the
I know
case.
that they have been responsive because Captain Cavalier's department, I remember there was an issue as to 2 locations. And I think that the SLA listened to what the town had to say.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I think on this one, it probably 30 days would be warranted. And I think in general, maybe we don't always waive them as a matter of course.
You don't get renewals anymore because they don't have to let you know when they're renewing a liquor license. It's only for new liquor licenses. You no longer see renewals. So if you have a trouble place and they're renewing, you don't see those anymore. They changed the rules, yeah. Years back. That's why you don't see them.
We haven't seen them in 10 years.
It's only new applicants that you see these for anymore. So it's kind of hard to determine how they're going to be because they're new.
Chief, Captain.
You got something with this one.
Just for you to consider also, when we saw this on the town agenda, we adjusted the union. There is an off-duty job where the officers work at the movie theaters off-duty. And I started researching the legality, if they'll be able to continue if they sell alcohol and have a liquor license.
So are we going to table this? Or are we going to
just deny?
I think you just vote no, that's all.
Right, we can deny
That's
it.
all.
Okay.
All those in favor?
And all you're doing is denying the waiver of 30 days, which
You just can't
they're
do
gonna
anything
still
for 30
get
days.
it. They just,
Yeah.
doesn't really.
All those in favor? All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion fails 7-0. That brings us to the end of our agenda. Oh, we have one left, legal. Notice of claimant for the legal, Andre Nagel Barnett. And that brings us to the end of our agenda. I'd like the motion to suspend the rules for any item.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody that would like to speak?
Anybody want to speak on any item at all? Who seconded that to suspend the rules? I didn't hear.
I'll second.
Second.
Okay.
I'm the one who made the motion to adjourn.
We didn't get that.
I didn't hear that.
We didn't get this far.
Seeing nobody?
Make a motion to resume the rules?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Renahan?
Be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby adjourn to executive session to consider the following: the medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation, matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation, to discuss matters which are exempt under the open meeting law, including matters subject to attorney-client privilege. So moved.
Second.
You got a motion and a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Town Board goes in executive session 9:55 p.m.